Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, kind of getting your lives back together, especially for you folks in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. Well, it was very active, kind of a scary day. The damaging wind threats certainly verified as the reports certainly confirmed that from the storm reports from the National Weather Service. Just a slew of damaging wind reports. We'll actually show you guys that here in a second. As of now, just one tornado report. So that was kind of the surprise from yesterday. I think this will change as we get a little bit later into the morning with the National Weather Service teams out there for your local regions. Go out there and check out damage-stricken regions and verify if it was damaging winds or maybe a tornado. So they actually have to do surveys to verify that. And I think most of them will continue to show up as damaging wind reports. But I do think the tornado reports will increase from yesterday as we get a little bit later into today. But certainly hope you guys get power back who are out, and appreciate the support yesterday. And I do apologize for not really getting to the comments from really over the last 48 hours, honestly. I'm going to get to all of it this morning. I promise you guys into this afternoon. Got to do some catching up on work, and I promise you I will acknowledge everything. I do apologize. I take that serious with this channel. It's something that I try to make different with my channel, is trying to get a little bit more personal with the comments. So I certainly will get to all those this morning and this afternoon for you folks. But another active day expected today. Strong to severe storms across the deep south, the high plains, and then we even got some severe weather possible for areas of southern New England with even a tornado threat. So we're going to break it all down. Tomorrow is going to be very active again. I think we just got an active stretch coming up. We got a little bit of somewhat of a zonal flow set up across the country, and basically just an avenue of storms are just going to cross this area, flattened out ridge. And really, when it's this active, it's hard for me to talk about weather too far out. That's why I haven't really given you guys an update on the tropics, really, or anything like that, because it's so active right now. So with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. I'm really close to 50,000 subscribers, halfway to 100,000. Thank you all for the amazing support this summer. I mean, you know, it's been because the weather's been so active, obviously, but I mean, it's really been wild watching the growth of the channel during typically one of the most slowest times of the year, which is the summer. It has not been slow this summer. We all know that. But if you guys got anything I can pray about, pray over, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's take a look at water vapor loop. If I'm a little sloppy in this video, I do apologize. Usually the day after I storm chase, I'm just a little out of it and I have to get back in the routine of things. But anyways, we got an upper piece of energy swinging through right here. And we got an upper piece of energy up here in the northeast and areas of Canada swinging through up here. So this piece of energy, you see that the digging and the water vapor loop right into here, this will promote an atmosphere for severe weather right into here today. I might have drew that line a little bit too far to the west, but anyways, you get the point. We're going to have severe storms that pops up in this region as this digs down and basically enhances the ingredients for severe weather into this region today. And then as this pulls away, this upper piece of energy, this upper trough, if you will, with an associated surface low, this is going to pull in the ingredients one last time for severe weather into this region of the Northeast today. And then this huge area in white you see here, this is some morning storms, some of which are severe warn, popping off flash flood warnings. This will continue to move downstream into areas of the deep south, and we will see how this handles itself downstream. It's going to tap into an unstable environment in the deep south, which there always is this time of the year with the humid air off the Gulf of Mexico. And we could be dealing with another nasty line of storms, but further south compared to yesterday. So that's kind of what's going on up here. Just chill weather for you folks in kind of the north central U.S. The ridge is flattened out like this, kind of. So everything's just kind of flying through here. Okay, I know those lines are crossing each other like crazy, so it continues to be very hot down here. We need to completely get rid of this ridge. We need a cold front to come down and really weaken this ridge, and it is just very hard to do that. When these ridge setups get really entrenched into the pattern, it is very hard to just get rid of them. It really is. But what's going on right now? Well, there's two areas I'm watching. This area is first. Strong storms, some that were severe when I started this video. about an hour ago. They're just strong right now. You got flash flood warnings, though, in eastern Oklahoma into southwest sections of Arkansas. This is what we'll watch for later. All this energy will flow down into Mississippi, Alabama, and even into southern Georgia, the panhandle of Florida later today. And I think some of it will weaken, but then other portions of it will strengthen. So it'll kind of re-strengthen in areas, weaken in others, if that makes any sense. So we're watching this huge cluster of rain. You're waking up to some soggy conditions in this portion of the country. Lingering showers in eastern South Carolina. A little bit of some northwest flow sort of showers kind of flying through the central Alps region. And it's raining like cats and dogs up here in a lot of Maine, New Hampshire. We even got some storms already ongoing in southern New England. The atmosphere will try to recover one last time before this upper piece of energy flies out of here to the northeast, and we will probably get some nasty storms in this region, probably coming up here in the next several hours in southern New England, when we could have some tornado warnings. We'll certainly watch this. Storm Prediction Center for today, there is an enhanced risk in this area right here for large hail. We're probably going to get very large hail in this region today. And there's a slight risk that surrounds it, goes all the way into Nebraska, deep into Kansas. I think it's going to be another overnight hour kind of severe storm set for you folks, where it seems like that's always been the case over the entire summer. And then you got a slight risk down here for the deep south states. I mean, I'm talking about central southern Mississippi, the southern half of Alabama, southern half of Georgia, even extreme southern sections of South Carolina, and the far northern counties of Florida. A slight risk, level 2 out of 5, and this is really because of this line of storms upstream here in Arkansas and areas of Oklahoma. Then we got the very small marginal risk up here in southern New England. Tornado threat, 5% risk of a tornado here in east Colorado, very small sections of Kansas and Nebraska. I think right here is going to get a tornado today. I really do. We'll talk about this area. But, if you live right up here in northeast Colorado, I'd really pay attention to the weather today for sure. I wouldn't say it's little, but, a pretty decent size 2% risk of a tornado today here in Boston, and pretty much almost all of Massachusetts and Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, southern sections of New Hampshire and Maine have a 2% risk of a tornado today. Okay, wind threat. I could see this increasing to a 30% risk here in areas of Nebraska and Kansas, perhaps now, as of right now, 6:50 a.m. Eastern Time. Yesterday was a prime example of how things change. Remember, I told you over and over and over again, I thought it was going to increase to a moderate risk, and certainly it did about 45 minutes after I dropped the video. It's always going to be the case, guys, and it tears my nerves up because I feel like I drop a video and give you guys old information, but it's just the way it is with how the Storm Prediction Center does their updates and what time. But a 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher in both of these yellow regions right here. That's a 55 to 60 miles per hour in this yellow area. And then the hail threat, not very high down here in the deep south. It wasn't very high in the mid-Atlantic either, but storm chaser, a guy named Peter, he's locally well known here in the mid-Atlantic. He found hail, 4.5 inch in diameter size hail in Virginia yesterday from a supercell. So just goes to show you can still get very large hail and a relatively low hail chance. But you got the yellow area, which is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then you got the 30% risk area. Okay, that means there is a 30% risk of the same criteria, hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then this huge black outline region right in here with the dashes going in between it, that is a 10% risk of significant hail. That is hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger in this region. So hail, very large hail, is going to be a big deal here across the high plains and Great Plains. Excessive rainfall out local. Watch these pockets right here in the yellow. That means there is a slight risk. That means there's a 15% risk of excessive rainfall being met in this region. And then you got the moderate risk up here in the northeast today. Maine, southern areas of New Hampshire and Vermont. That is at least a 40% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded into this region. Rain, it's already raining up here, so there's already an issue ongoing, but this will continue throughout the day, where you guys are just going to deal with a lot of heavy rain, even some storm activity. You guys have just, the second half of summer has just absolutely been brutal for rain for you folks. Watches and warnings. You can tell the ridge is flattened out because all the heat advisories and excessive heat warnings things like that are all flattened out. They're all really just confined to the extreme southern sections of the country, but they do go all the way up to Wilmington, North Carolina. Florida, very, very uncomfortable today. Hot, humid, excessive heat warnings and heat advisories for every single county in Florida. Very hot along the Gulf Coast. Temperatures, the heat indices, it feels like temperatures will be well over 100 degrees. Flood watches up for the northeast, and you got some flood watches up for areas of Kansas and Nebraska. Power outages as of right now, we'll update this, see what it looks like. North Carolina's taking the cake right now with over 100,000 people without power. South Carolina all the way back down to 12,000, a little over. Pennsylvania and areas of Maryland, a lot of people without power in these regions. Even Oklahoma dealing with some power outages with this line of storms rolling through. But there's still a lot of people without power. So storm reports from yesterday, guys, and I'll try to make this a little bit bigger. All right, here we go. Storm reports, guys. We had over 1,000 reports. 871 of them, and this is probably increased, but this was as of around last night, around midnight. You have 871 damaging wind reports, okay? I mean, look at them. Clustered up across the southern apps, the Carolinas, North Georgia, northern Alabama, the mid-Atlantic. So really, there was only one tornado report, and it wasn't even in the eastern U.S. So, I mean, just goes to show you, I think this will change. This will probably change as we're waking up this morning. There will be some more tornado reports. This is kind of old, but I'm just kind of showing you to kind of give you the idea of, hey, you know, the winds did verify yesterday. It was very active. So let's talk about the southeast. We'll take a broad look at this first. And we're watching this cluster of storms. It's basically going to fly through the deep south regions, and this continues into the afternoon. Gets into Alabama into this afternoon, then it gets all the way into Georgia this evening, even affects areas of North Florida. But it's not really much to mention, even in Florida. I mean, the rest of Florida, just typical summertime thunderstorms. But up here in Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, I mean, just some isolated downpours are possible. There's not really much to speak on up there for you folks. A lot more calmer day, thank goodness. But this line of storms for the deep south, I think it'll be fully into the Mississippi area by about midday today. If you live in Jackson, watch out for some damaging storms as far as damaging winds possible. Watch out for some severe weather, you know, around the midday to 1 p.m. time frame. These continue to march across the state. This could be a lot more intense than what this is showing. I really think it could. Starts to affect, be really close to the Meridian area. Starts to cross into Alabama about early to mid-afternoon, affects Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. I think some severe weather begins to move through. But I'm telling you guys, I think that the severe weather could be draped a little bit further south than this. So, you know, a little bit further down the 20 corridor. And you can see that it begins to sink further southeast in time. This is around 3 p.m. Central Time. These storms are really blasting through the Birmingham, getting close to the Montgomery area, and then it starts to get pretty active, really just north of Pensacola, Panama City, gets all the way down to Dothan, Alabama, around late afternoon. These are packing a punch. I know this doesn't look that serious compared to yesterday, but I definitely think this could potentially be a lot more active than what this is showing. But these move through. I think it's going to be quite active for Georgia later this evening. Some pretty bad storms are possible. We compare this with the FV3 model. I think the FV3 model shows it well. I think the FV3 model is a great example of what could happen today. But powerful storms rolling through about midday, really, really early afternoon through Mississippi. I think this fully kind of gets into the Alabama area early to mid-afternoon. Like I said, you know, the Meridian to Tuscaloosa, the Birmingham kind of corridor. I do think you'll be dealing with some strong to severe storms around mid-afternoon. Damaging winds is the biggest threat, and these could potentially cluster up. And this looks typical of a mesoscale convective system, which I think is what's going to probably roll through the deep south. This definitely is somewhat of a concerning look just because, we don't want any power outages or anything like that, but southern Alabama is going to be very active this afternoon, and this eventually sinks into the southern half of Georgia. Does it make it all the way to Atlanta? I doubt it, but the Columbus area certainly could get very active. Albany, Georgia, Valdosta certainly could get some pretty strong to severe storms down here this evening, okay? As far as how much rain, you can see the skinny corridor of rain coming up. I think, if you're in extreme central areas of Mississippi, give or take 50 miles one way or the other, over an inch of rain is possible, an inch and a quarter of rain is possible, quarter inch to about an inch of rain is possible for the southern half of Alabama into southern Georgia. We'll talk a little bit more about Georgia here in a second. And speaking of Georgia, we'll talk about them now. Most of the Carolinas, it will be clear. I mean, a lot quieter of the day. I think we could have another active severe weather day as we get later into this week. But as you can tell down here in Georgia, I think as we get into late afternoon, mainly the evening time frame, if you live in the southern counties of Georgia, I think you guys could experience some strong to severe storms, even all the way south into Jacksonville a little bit later this evening. Damaging winds, some small hail is possible. Cannot completely rule out a tornado threat either, but I think the winds aloft aren't really going to support it. But you see these severe storms down here in southern Georgia. I really think that is certainly likely today. I just think that they will arrive later in the evening as they have to basically completely cross all of the deep south states. The Northeast today, like I said, this upper energy kind of flies through with the associated surface low. And as we get into this afternoon, I think that we're going to get numerous showers and storms that fly through. I mean, even as far west as, getting a little bit deeper back into New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. But I think the ingredients for severe weather will be the highest further south into Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. And I think some pretty nasty storms could swing through the area. And if we get a little bit closer to this region, like I said, this is here in the next hour or two. We still got a lot of storm action rolling through, and then we get to about 11 a.m. This looks like some pretty intense storm action just in and around the Boston region. All the way up here into the Portsmouth. Certainly active as early as this morning. Okay, and we keep this going. And I honestly think the worst weather is going to happen kind of in the first 8 to 12 hours of the day. And then a lot of the nasty weather kind of moves out into the North Atlantic. Certainly Cape Cod could be pretty active later this morning into this afternoon. But more storms could develop behind this. We could get some more additional convection. But most of this, I think the worst weather could potentially happen kind of the first 12 hours of the day. But you're still dealing with storms in New Hampshire and Vermont, even as we get into around the 6 p.m. time frame. And some of these, could have some spin to them. We could have some tornado warnings up here in southern New England. But, today's going to kind of be an all-day event from, all morning into this afternoon up here. And I think by the time we get into this evening, I think things will calm down for the most part. But the updraft Felicity swath, it does show some blues right in here, just indicating some rotating updrafts with these storms. So, just be aware. Boston, you're right in the middle of the 2% risk. Don't be surprised you get a tornado warning or two up here today, later this morning. Heck, by the time, you folks are watching this video, there could be one. Rainfall, there is definitely going to be a little slither right here where just storm after, you guys are already getting a lot of rain this morning, but storm after storm could potentially just kind of roll over this area of eastern Mass. 2, 3, maybe as much as 4 inches of rain is possible. And to kind of go back and look at our folks in Maine, because I don't want to just kind of leave you guys hanging. Maine, you guys are going to be dealing with just plain old rain most of the day. But the further you get into the southern sections of Maine, the eastern sections of Maine, the more you get kind of more so into storms. So the further south you get, the more the higher the chance you're going to see some lightning, you're going to hear some thunder, and you might even get a severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're up here in the Portland area, Brunswick region, even Augusta, you guys could get some storm action, and even can't rely on an isolated tornado in extreme southern sections of Maine. But once you get like the central Maine points north, up to Caribou, things like that, this is just good old-fashioned heavy rain, even a chilly rain for August standards moving through this area. And then some, like I said, some more intense storms could potentially roll through New Hampshire, maybe even northern Vermont a little bit later this afternoon. But rainfall for Maine, additional rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. Another 1 to 2, 3 inches of rain is possible for almost all in the entire state. Definitely a rainy day in Maine today, that's for sure. South central U.S., we'll get rid of this line of storms. We'll get some clearing. We'll get a lot of shower and pop-up storm activity in New Mexico today. And then we'll watch a piece of energy that flies across this area right here, and I really think we're going to get some really bad weather up here in northeast Colorado, areas of Nebraska and Kansas later today. But a lot of shower and rain activity in New Mexico today. Some of this storm activity could drift into western Texas, western Oklahoma as we get into the evening time frame. But really everybody else just really hot, guys. And then as we get into the morning time tomorrow morning, I think some storms will roll through Kansas, Oklahoma throughout the night potentially. So we go up here, we look at Colorado, and the concern for me with Colorado is certainly northeast Colorado. I really think that if anybody's going to get a tornado today, could be wrong, it's going to be along that Highway 76 corridor. I would say right up here, even northeast of Sterling. I think this corner right up here of Colorado, I think you could get a very large hail threat, and I think you get a tornado threat around late afternoon, evening time frame in this region. This could drift into southwest Nebraska, but I definitely think this area right here, what's a town I can mention? Julesburg. That's what I was trying to think of. And then that Big Springs area once you get into Nebraska. But Julesburg, I'm telling you, watch out around this region this evening. Okay, there's definitely going to be a big, large hail threat. Model guidance is consistent on some kind of supercell development right in here. So if you're viewing, let me know if you're viewing from northeast Colorado. I'm telling you, definitely be aware of this region for sure. Updraft Felicity swath, indicates it well. Some very high-end, higher colors right in here indicating higher chance for some rotating updrafts. So you're certainly going to get a tornado threat right into here. You're going to get some rotating thunderstorms. And so please be careful. Be careful in this region of the country. I know it's not highly populated, but that doesn't matter. You never know when it's going to affect somebody's life. So be careful in this region. My folks in Kansas, some storms really don't roll into the region, I would say, until maybe late evening. The latest HRRR model says ain't nothing going to happen in Kansas until like after midnight tonight. But I think once we get into well after midnight, I think anybody in Kansas, really, especially the northern and northwest portion of the state, could get very active. I think we could get a damaging wind threat in kind of northwest Kansas, sort of around the wee hours of the morning. I mean, look at this little cluster of storms right here. This looks pretty dangerous right up here in, where is that? Isn't that good? The Goodland region. Yeah, Goodland just north Colby. This is for around 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning this tomorrow morning. Definitely a lot of rain could fall too, but this sweeps through and then we're waking up tomorrow morning. So I would definitely watch out in this area. Rainfall, a little corridor of a half inch to an inch of rain is possible in this region right here in central Kansas, from northwest Kansas to central Kansas. So we take a look at Nebraska. Same kind of deal. This is why I think the damaging wind threat will increase. I think these storms will pack some high-end winds, but you got storms that are popping off here in western Nebraska. I think they will pop up in and around the Scottsbluff area. I think Cheyenne, Wyoming can get some storms too, but I think they really get more organized once they get more into Nebraska. But these storms are riding down. They start kind of skirting down that Interstate 80 corridor. They start to reach the North Platte area sometime around late evening, and you just got a lot of scattered shower and storm activity pretty much all the state of Nebraska. It's about midnight tonight. And but we do need to watch this little cluster of storms that I just talked about for Kansas. This could certainly produce some damaging winds that's rolling through areas of Nebraska and Kansas, kind of riding the state line, if you will. And this continues, and I think as we're waking up tomorrow morning, could be a lot more calm in Nebraska. But speaking of the damaging wind threat, guys, I mean, this is for today. Okay, so get my days mixed up. So getting through most of the afternoon this evening, pretty calm. But as you can tell, it picks up on this area of stronger winds kind of moving through areas of Nebraska later this evening, and then this area into the wee hours of the morning. This is 60, 70, maybe 80 mile per hour winds trying to show up on. Now this is probably overdone, but the northwest corner of Kansas shows some very intense storms after midnight tonight. So we'll see how that unfolds. North central U.S., pretty quiet. Some pop-up showers are possible. Eastern Wisconsin, maybe the UP. Some showers, even some storms possible in extreme northern Minnesota. Some showers in North Dakota. You keep moving through the overnight hours, and we've already talked about Nebraska and we'll continue to have some showers and downpours in northern sections of Minnesota. Could wake up to some showers in the UP of Michigan tomorrow morning. Outside of that, it's pretty calm. We'll take a deeper look at the northern plains, and I definitely think Wyoming could see some storms today. Really, anybody in Wyoming, especially northern and eastern Wyoming, certainly could see some storms today. Montana, not very active, some isolated downpours, but it's not that active for the northern plains, that's for sure, today, except obviously for Nebraska and northeast Colorado, the high plains though. The rest of the western U.S., New Mexico is going to be popping off today. You're going to get a lot of storm activity, and also eastern Arizona. If you live in eastern Arizona, you could definitely get a lot of shower and storm activity today. Nothing severe really expected, but certainly could be quite active in this region of the country, so we'll watch out for that. Everybody else, relatively calm. Eastern U.S., hot along the immediate coastline and just about an hour or two inland. But as you can tell, you see this little area right in here. Watch as I move it in time. You see how the temperatures dramatically drop? That is our line of storms sweeping across the deep south. You can actually see it on the temperature gradient here. So it'll dramatically drop the temperatures. Temperatures will get very hot ahead of these storms today, and then they'll dramatically drop as the storms move through. Texas, just hot, and continue to be very hot. Florida well into the 90s, deep, southern Georgia, deep into the 90s with brutally hot conditions because of the humidity. Northeast, pretty pleasant today, mainly just because cloud cover and rain, 60s, 70s for highs. Once you get into the mid-Atlantic, 80s and 90s. The Ohio Valley, just the 80s. North Central U.S., Great Lakes region, 80s. A little pocket of 90s right here in Arkansas and areas of Kansas. You move into the western U.S. and just typical kind of late summer conditions. Nothing too totally unusual out here, really to speak on, honestly. As far as tomorrow, there's a pretty large slight risk over the Mississippi Valley areas of the Mid-South. I think that we might end up getting an enhanced risk tomorrow. So we'll speak on tomorrow. Guys, tonight is soccer. First practice of soccer. Asking for prayers for that. I meant to mention that at the beginning of the video. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get a video out on this. We'll see. But slight risk for a large area right here in this part of the country. We'll talk about that. And then even for Thursday, I think this has a chance to upgrade to a slight risk of the southeast. So stay tuned for that. God bless all y'all. Have a great day. I actually made this video in under 30 minutes, so that's a huge accomplishment. But thank y'all for everything. Thank y'all for the support over the last couple of days. God bless all y'all, and have a great day.